Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. I have mixed in a steady dose of March Madness here this week while I wear my Coppin gear and my UMBC hat and getting all excited about March Madness with the Terps, as well as opening day a few weeks away, and not much to get excited about there. But it has been just a sea change for the Baltimore Ravens here in this offseason, not just with Joe Flacco departing, and then we find out Weddle, Suggs, Mosley, the hits keep on coming, but the draft is around the corner, and this next guest has a book that's it's pretty thick, it's pretty heavy. If I drop it on the table, it's going to make a lot of noise. The book is the SIS Football Rookie Handbook, Comprehensive Scouting and Analytics Guide for 2019 Sports Info Solutions. It is edited by Matt Manicherian. There it is right there. We're going to welcome him onto the program. His maiden voyage here, and a thick book complete with players and profiles, including Daylon Mack from Texas A&M here, and grading them. But, boy, the early grades are in on free agency, and, Matt, wouldn't you know it, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Jets, they've done it again. They've won March. How about that, huh?
Yeah, you know, we always talk about the teams that win March, that win free agency. Usually we're talking about the Washington football team around this time of year. I think we all know how the wins in March really play out during the season.
Well, look, you were a scout for the Browns recently, in these parts of the world where we once stole their football team and things have never been the same. We've been waiting for them to get up and crawl and walk, and I know you were a part of an effort there with Mike Pettin and Lombardi a number of years ago. I think there are 3 transitions since then, and, I mean, we've anointed them. The early books were like people betting Super Bowl money on the Browns. Just crazy things are happening. We don't even know if Freddie Kitchens can coach, but in the case of teams making moves, the Browns will be the one thing we're taking seriously here in Baltimore, while obviously Cincinnati does whatever they're doing. And the Steelers and the Ravens feel like they're reloading, retooling, transitioning, whatever it is, but certainly don't feel as loaded as they have in recent years.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about it if I was a Ravens fan than if I was a Steelers fan, to be honest with you. I think you're right. We're used to seeing those two teams dominate the division. And for the first time right now, we're looking at it, and we're all looking and expecting that the Browns are really rounding into kind of a prime form. Kind of they're in their window, so to speak, right now, while Mayfield's on that first contract. And I will say this: I'd much rather be the Ravens than the Steelers right now. I think that the Steelers, we're starting to see a lot of cracks at the foundation, a lot of things that are clearly catching them by surprise. You know, taking the poor return on Antonio Brown, for example. Whereas the Ravens, I think that it's a little bit of a rebuild for sure, but the bones have been there. It wasn't like, Ozzie left and Ozzie just left the cupboard bare or left something, with unhappy stars, something like that. I think that as the new regime kind of rounds in there, they're clearly going to be doing things a little bit differently, but it seems to me like they're making moves that make sense.
Well, and, going through all of them, I don't think we have to sit here long to talk about Weddle and Suggs and the number, or even Mosley at the number. And I really get the vibe that when they put this offseason together, Eric said, look, I got job security. I got a blank sheet here. John just got a deal. We just made the playoffs. We just gave it a run, one last run, right, with the band together. And we like our coaches. We like our stability. We like some of our young players. We like that we're not going to get beaten up by the Steelers and they're a 14-win team anymore. So we can get here and scratch and claw, maybe win 9 or 10 games if we do it the right way. But all of this really sets up for the first time in a long time that they're going to have money to spend. But to your point, and this is where you get to plug your book, Matt, the SIS Football Rookie Handbook, this becomes the Bible, right? It's the players in this draft and next draft, and whatever they do with this stash of money they're going to have once the Weddles and the Flaccos clear off their books, and once Yanda's probably not here any longer, and what to do with Stanley, what to do with Humphrey. But it really feels like we're going to get 20 to 25 new football players in here in the next 15 months, and they need to maximize who they are, which makes the draft all that much more important for this franchise right now.
Yeah, it already started last year, too, with Lamar Jackson and Orlando Brown and the tight ends that were drafted in there. I think that the plan, even before, you said it was one last run kind of with the whole band, even before that decision was made to kind of go in the Lamar direction, I think that these picks were already starting to be accumulated. I think there was always an eye towards the future.
Well, in the case of this draft and where the Ravens are further down, these are always the hardest ones to evaluate, right? Because you can take the top 12, 14 names and take the amalgamation from everybody's mock draft and just know those cats are gone. And know that the Ravens probably aren't trading up into the top 10 to take a rush edge at this point, although they'll have some draft collateral to do that if they wish to do that, but that probably would not be their strategy, right? So knowing all of that, where is this draft? Heavy, light? And certainly for the Ravens, other than taking a quarterback in the first round, which they did last year, I would think that there's a wide open palette here for directions they can go in when they've lost a Hall of Fame rush end, a linebacker at top of the market, a safety who's in the Hall of Very Good, and certainly was in the Hall of Leadership. That there are a bunch of holes here that they could come at this thing with, that any best player available will be what they're looking for. But where's the depth in this draft, Matt?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's best player available. That's always my strategy, and I think that's the best way to be if you're the Ravens right now. The strength of this draft is clearly on the defensive line, both at the top of the draft and throughout the depth of the draft. So when you look inside the top 10, I think we'll see at least 5 defensive line or edge players get drafted off the board. When you start looking from our top guy in the draft, Quinnen Williams, through Bosa and Josh Allen and Sweat and Ed Oliver, I think those 5 guys are all really kind of elite prospects in the bunch this year. You'd be thrilled to get any of those guys. After that, though, there's still plenty. We haven't even talked about any of the Clemson defensive linemen yet. There's really a lot of depth throughout all of the defensive positions in the draft, not just that D-line, but also later in that first round, you look at some very fast off-ball linebackers that I think can play there, both of the Devons, if you're looking for somebody to come in and replace Mosley. And then I think there are some good players in the secondary, especially at the corner position. And certainly, I mean, the Ravens have been strong on defense for years and years. The offense you would think would be a little bit more of the need, but defense is where it is in this draft. And then I think you can get offensive players into the second and third round. You can find starting quality offensive linemen, a lot of depth at the receiver position, not a lot of high end, but a lot of depth. I think there's a lot of choices there, and this is a great year to have a lot of picks.
Amazing that the Cardinals would go all in on a quarterback last year and then flip around. I mean, we've seen the Eagles acquire a quarterback and then trade up to draft a number 1 overall. The quarterbacks are everything, right? And if you feel like you got one, you like one, this kid coming into the draft as opposed to not being in the draft sort of shakes up everything. It's always that way during this period of time, and it doesn't feel like there's much question about what's happening at the top at this point, right?
It doesn't feel like there's a lot of question. I think it's Kyler Murray is the odds-on favorite to go. If it's not him, I would bet on Nick Bosa being that number 1 pick just because he's such a kind of bulletproof prospect in a lot of ways, even though he's not our top guy on the board. I think Dwayne Haskins also ends up going in the top 10. I'm with you there. And, with quarterbacks, they're always going to get drafted a little bit different timing. Look at the Ravens, for example, just moving up into the first round last year so that they could get that 5th-year option on Lamar. Everybody's going to be handling that position differently, and rightfully so.
He is Matt Manicheri, and his book is the SIS Football Rookie Handbook, Comprehensive Scouting and Analytics Guide, a nice little companion to have all during the draft season. And certainly we're now back at that point where we're betting on winners and trying to find future Ed Reeds and Ray Lewises and Hall of Famers late in the first round. Boy, the workout wonders in the DK Metcalf show was something a couple weeks ago at the Combine, huh?
Yeah, that was a great show. I think we saw it coming, to be honest with you. So if you look at the receiver ratings in the SIS Football Rookie Handbook, and just a minute on what that is. So SIS, we're Sports Info Solutions. We work for the NFL teams, right? We're a consulting, analytics consulting group that works with NFL teams. We give them different information, different data, different analysis that we're doing. We work with the teams, and they're using very similar information to what is actually found in the Football Rookie Handbook. We give you a little analytical profile on all the players available in the draft, and in addition to that, we give you our real scouting reports, the SIS scouting reports based on what I learned in the NFL with the Saints, and then also Mike Lombardi's Browns. So we're really bringing the same information that the teams are using to you here in the book. And as we looked at the receivers, we had 3 receivers tied for our top grade. None of them top of the first round type grades, Pro Bowl type grades, but starting type grades. And of those 3 guys, you look at N'Keal Harry and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, by the way, is DK Metcalf's teammate at Ole Miss. These guys have all kinds of production, 1,000-yard seasons each of the last 2 years. lots of things to love when you start to look at the analytical breakdown of all the statistics that they've compiled over the years. You don't see that with DK Metcalf. Each of those other two receivers had more yards after the catch than DK Metcalf had receiving yards total in the last two seasons. So that tells you something about what he did on the field. All of that said, these guys were all tied for the top grade because we knew DK Metcalf had crazy physical tools. You know, I mean, this guy, as soon as you see the Instagram picture and you know what he can run like because you've seen him on the field, the physical tools are ridiculous. But I got to be honest with you, I think it's buyer beware. I hear this guy going in the top 10 now in some of these mock drafts. I really think I'd want to have somebody that's produced more on the field at this point, that's shown the ability to play football, rather than betting that somebody's going to become Julio Jones.
Matt, I tell you what, man, I'm going to get back together with you closer to the draft next month, and we'll promote your book a little bit more and all the stuff that you guys do here to go player by player through this, and maybe some of it will shake out to see where the Ravens' needs are, certainly on our end. Lots of needs at this point, and lots of teams sort of biding time and maybe going to the second market. I mean, there's a third market after June cuts. There's another market in August. As Ozzie would always have to say, we don't have to go play this week, but we could if we needed to. But certainly here, licking the wounds of this kind of an offseason and lose. We're not used to that around here, but I would say the NFL's shaken out interestingly over the last 2 months in a lot of places for quarterbacks and maneuverings and what teams are going to do. We're going to see a Joe Flacco press conference in Denver this week. There's a lot of movement in the league.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun right now. I think we had a great NFL season. I know that a lot of people talked about rule changes, and the league's been through a lot in the past few years. I thought we had one of the best NFL seasons that I've seen in my life. Yeah, I think certainly this millennium where the scoring was up, the game was exciting. We got the helmet-to-helmet stuff out of there, and I don't think anybody really missed it. I think what we saw was a faster game with fewer injuries. So I think the game's really in a great place, and the offseason's in a great place because I've never seen so much interest in the draft and free agency. It's almost NBA-ish what's going on.
Wait till you see Nashville next month, right? Like, it's going to be crazy down there, right?
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Thank God they moved that out of New York.
Well, yeah, I went once, and, we'd love to have it here. I mean, even our Super Bowl year, we didn't get to have the party here because the baseball team chased us out. So a little NFL festival will be nice for Baltimore, a Festivus for the rest of us. The book is the SIS, Football Rookie Handbook. They're doing Sports Info Solutions. Matt Manicherian's our guest. It will not be the last time we have him on talking some football. Matt, thanks for being a great guest. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to being back to air some grievances.
You got it. You can find him at Matt Mano out on Twitter as well. Matt, M-A-N-O. You can find me out on the BuyAToyota.com Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.